Monday Night Raw for November 4th, 2019. Booked, played out. And now we're going to talk about it. You wouldn't have known you were watching a professional wrestling program, judging by the way the audience was perceiving it and the energy that Long Island had. You would have thought you were at a dance recital or the dentist. But no, it was Monday Night Raw. We'll get to that in a second. I got a few stories that I just want to wrap up before we get to the actual event. Number one, Bray Wyatt once again wrestled the Monday Night Raw dark match. So even though he is a SmackDown superstar, in that title, the Universal Championship, from here on out, it looks like will solely be on SmackDown. Bray Wyatt was once again the dark match. He took on Seth Rollins in another steel cage match. This lasted approximately 4.5 minutes. In this match, there was a bunch of stomps like we have seen in past Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt matches. But this time, unlike previous dark matches, Bray Wyatt was able to overcome the stomps, hit Sister Abigail, and collect a pinfall victory inside the cage over Rollins in just 4.5 minutes. So that was the dark match of Monday Night Raw. Wild card rule, brand split, crossing barriers and lines and brands. It's fucking anarchy. Nobody gives a fuck anymore. BC, it's a dark match. It doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. When you have other brand superstars touring the world, or in any city that is promoted as one brand, but yet another brand superstar comes over, it doesn't matter if it's a dark match or not. Your audience is seeing that superstar. So what the fuck's the point of the draft? Already we got Survivor Series where everybody is gonna be fucking mixed together. Crown Jewel, everybody was mixed together. I just question the timing of this draft especially. You know, at that point, you might as well have just waited to WrestleMania, do this thing the right way. Instead, it's still a smorgasbord where I really still don't know who's where. And I really gotta be honest with you, I no longer give a fuck who's where. Because I know on any given show, Vince will have whoever he wants there anyway. So I'm not going to sit here and try to memorize a roster. I'll just let Vince do what Vince does. Be stupid. So that's the first bit of business, guys. The dark match there. Now, the next set of business here is that we got word. I believe it was Dave Meltzer that first reported it, but many outlets have picked up on it. I learned about this during Monday Night Raw, that there was a mandatory company meeting at 3 p.m. So before Monday Night Raw, 5 hours before Eastern Time, there was a mandatory company meeting with WWE. Several people spoke, Vincent Kennedy McMahon among others. Seth Rollins, from what is being reported, Seth Rollins actually stood up and spoke out and gave what is being described a rah-rah speech, and told the company that they need to start banding together, and told the talent that they have to start making the company look better, which means no more personal social media attacks on the company. Not in those words, but basically that is the gist of what he said. Watch what you put out on social media. No more degrading the company, that type of stuff. And it's kind of ironic coming from Rollins because social media is what has gotten him in trouble, so I would think he's the last person to be giving advice on social media. But that's not even the issue. If this is true, my thing is, that's awesome. You want to be a locker room leader. Congrats, applause, and do it justice. All aboard. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody has to be that person. Seth Rollins does give his all to that company. That's awesome if you want to be a locker room leader. My issue is a locker room leader's very first chore, very first obligation is to stand with the locker room before you even become The corporate guy, you have to be the locker room guy. That's why you're the locker room leader. You got to be with the boys, have every single one of their respects and every single one of their adulation. Like, they want to look at you and say, that's our leader. But when you're constantly bringing them down and saying the ones that are complaining aren't working hard enough, and the ones that are bitching and moaning on social media, they can't do that because it's making the company look bad. But they're not employees. They're contractors. There's a difference. When you're a contractor, your first obligation is to yourself. If you're an employee, then your first obligation is making the company look good. No question about it. That's why the company is hiring you. You're a branch of the tree that they are. Ooh, you like that? You are just a further extension of the company. So you have to make the company look good, no doubt. Now, I'm not saying you make the company look bad every chance you get, and you still want to make your company look good as a contractor, but as an independent contractor, you still have to put yourself first, because when WWE cast you aside, guess where you have to bring your talents? Somewhere else. Your skills, somewhere else. You are an independent contractor. There is no amount of length of time that WWE has to keep you there beyond the contract. That's why they call it a contractor. You sign a piece of paper that says the allotted time that you are underneath that company's wing and division. You're not an employee. You're a contractor. And now they're being told they can't do X, Y, and Z as contractors when they feel they're being used and utilized like pieces of garbage, when they feel they're being mistreated or misinformed on situations, they can't speak out all of a sudden. Maybe the company wouldn't look bad if the company stopped doing stupid shit. There's a crazy concept. Maybe it's not always the superstars making the company look bad, but the fucking company making the company look bad. Maybe it's your boss that's making the company look bad. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Maybe it's not fellow superstars. So my issue with Rollins being the locker room leader is it looks to me like his suits and ties division of corporate Rollins, that takes over his ring gear in ring general Seth Rollins. He has to remember he is a wrestler with the boys and gals first and not a suit and tie corporate Rollins. Being a locker room leader means first be there for the locker room. Then you could be corporate chill Rollins. I'm cool with that. I understand you have to toe the line at some points, being a leader of any sort. But if you don't have that locker room fully, man, or you're constantly saying they're the issue, bro, then you got to look in the mirror and say, you're the issue. Now, Meltzer, Seth Rollins, actually, before he laid his head to rest last night, he actually sent the zinger over to Meltzer. So Rollins actually commented over on social media. Meltzer said, and I quote, Rollins said to Meltzer, and he even added him, Dave Meltzer, you're at best a purveyor of misinformation, or at worst, an outright vindictive liar. I hope it's the former, #rah-rah. Because again, I believe it was Meltzer who actually issued the rah-rah speech statement that Rollins supposedly gave. So we don't know, we know for a fact there was a meeting, that is true, and we don't have all the facts of if Rollins spoke out and what he said. But according to Meltzer, he has sources that told him that's exactly what happened. Now, I don't expect Rollins to come out and say, yes, it's true, I did. But it also seems like he's adamant that he didn't say such. So I don't know. But we do have a lot of facts that back up Seth Rollins being the locker room leader and having these type of talks. I mean, he's went on social media himself, or in interviews, I should say, and he's kind of taken aim at the roster and not Vince McMahon in the corporate chills. And again, that's my issue. So whether this ends up being true or not, it still doesn't change the fact that he has to remember who he is. Locker room leader or not, he's one of the boys. Act as such, man. You don't want to be looked at as one of those suits that, it's like if you're in a prison and you're in cahoots with the COs more than the other inmates. Well, that's not going to fly over too well. You know what I mean? Like, you're over there what we call being a snitch. You're over there telling all the gossip and giving out all the details when those other inmates are looking at you like, just wait till you get back to the pod. Wait till you get into your cell. You know what I mean? So you want to kind of relax on that shit. But there was a mandatory meeting, and apparently Rollins spoke up and spoke out and told the talent that you got to be careful what you put on social media because you're making the company look bad. And again, if this is true, Rollins has to definitely check himself. And on top of that, maybe it's the company making the company look bad. There's a concept. The third thing I did want to say, the last thing that I want to say, for now anyway, from the whole Saudi Arabia deal, is that we can confirm there was in fact a 45-minute delay. Multiple people said, there was a couple people that said like 25 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm hearing a bunch of times, but the majority of the people that have been contacted, Saudi Arabia, that have actually watched this on their feed, said about 45 minutes. That was the time frame. So we can confirm now that it was supposed to be live and instead it was delayed. So whether you call it a cut feed or whether you say it just didn't hit the airwaves until 45 minutes to an hour later, the bottom line is the feed was out for that allotted time. Some people thought maybe it was just the women's match and they didn't want that out to Saudi Arabia. Well, you're going to miss the whole almost first hour? The women's match was not the first match. They would have just had that the first, gotten that out of the way so everyone could see the feed. So I question that highly. This seems to go with Hugo's story. So anybody doubting Hugo or saying it's embellished or the story has kind of gone too far, I don't think it's gone far enough. This absolutely backs up Hugo's story. And then Fox Business can confirm the $60 million, which, by the way, was also confirmed by George Barrios to be owed to WWE. Barrios called it an outstanding payment. We come to find out that was Saudi Arabia. So it was not hundreds of millions, but it was 60 million, and that is now confirmed. That's no longer a story. Barrios himself called that an outstanding payment, and now we're hearing from Fox Business that that payment was paid in full over the weekend. Thursday, Friday, before that announcement was made that the extension between Saudi Arabia and Vince McMahon and WWE was made. All of this, it's obvious that the payment was paid after all this hoopla took place in Saudi Arabia, and then here we are within the last 24 hours talking about an extension after the $60 million was finally paid to Vince McMahon. So if you think there wasn't games going on Thursday, you got a couple 2-tree screw looses up in your dome piece. This was absolutely games being played. The delay by Vince and Kennedy, the airplane just being held down. AJ Styles describes it as what he talked about, a fuel guy parked his fucking fuel machine, whatever you want to call it, fuel truck, parked it in front of the plane, and then went, oh, gotta go home. And then after they got that taken care of, paperwork mysteriously arose, and there wasn't the right paperwork. And then when they finally got that taken care of, then they're describing multiple, not one, multiple mechanical issues forcing everybody off the plane. And then when it was too late, they said the pilots had to go sleep. So no one's going home tonight. If you don't think there was games being played, you are one of those people that will accept any information at all. One of the sheep that'll just say, please sir, can I have some more? I like bullshit. You gotta think, guys. Think. It's not hard to break things down. You don't even need the amplified man half the time to break this shit down for you. Use your dome piece. The facts are there if you're willing to take the time and research it. And when everything starts to fall in order and in line, you'll see games were being played, and in the end, everybody ended up getting what they wanted. Vince got his $60 million, and Saudi Arabia finalized the extension with McMahon. more money to come. But these were games being played. It's not outrageous to think that that's what happens in business, especially international like this. Games were being played. The superstars were pawns. It's the bottom line. It happens. The poor superstars don't even realize it. AJ Styles is still saying this, that he doesn't really know what happened because he was given 5 different reasons. Poor Natalya. Natalya was just in an interview and she was like, it's the craziest thing. We heard this, this, and that. And she's like, I'm hearing the stories and I can't help but laugh because I don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows what the truth is. But if you put all of these situations together, it's not that hard to come to the conclusion. Games were being played by the Saudi Arabia honchos and Vincent Kennedy. And the superstars are just pawns in the game. Now, it's a bottom line. So, now, absolutely, nobody was being held captive per se. But absolutely, they were grounded, man. They weren't going anywhere, you know? And it was done in the most diplomatic way possible, where it wouldn't make international news, you know? 5-star resorts they were sent to, or 5-star hotels, and treated great, absolutely. But you ain't going anywhere until this gets solved. It's games being played. I've seen this type of stuff so many times in so many different ways with so many entities and companies. This is just another one of those. This is the most saddest for me because all of these superstars and crew people were pawns in the game. So that I don't like. But that's absolutely what this was. So listen, everybody's back safe now and good, and I hope that these superstars' eyes are much more wide open the next time, because this is what you're dealing with Vincent Kennedy McMahon in these type of situations. Open your eyes, use your dome piece. These weren't just coincidences. A fuel truck didn't just block the plane that was about to take off, and then the guy said, gotta go home. And then when they got that out of the way, then paperwork mysteriously comes up. Paperwork, you had all this time, and now when they're about to leave after the fuel truck issues, now this arises. And then when that's finally brushed to the side because people realize, wait, this is bullshit, then all of a sudden there's multiple, this is the WWE press, multiple mechanical issues. The airplane service didn't even put that in their statement. They were just, it's everybody has a different fucking story with the honchos. That's why it takes people like me to break it down and put all these facts together. And then they were told, oh, after these mechanical issues, now the pilot has to go sleep. Everything you can think of to keep them there overnight to prove a point and send Vince McMahon a message. You think they don't have the power to tell people to say things or to not tell people information? Please, any country has that power. Use your dome piece. These weren't just a bunch of coincidences that just happened to happen one night. No, and then a 45 to an hour delay? Are you kidding me? That just happened? People got to start thinking, man. And then we confirm $60 million was owed. This is confirmed from Barrios himself. And then we found out by Fox Business and other outlets that $60 million was paid. And then literally hours after, we get the story that there's going to be a furthering of this agreement. Hours after the payment is finally received. Come on, use your dome piece, guys. I need you. I need you to think. But the payment is in, and now there's going to be an extension. Now, my question is, this was already 10 years to begin with. What's the extension? The extension says through 2027, but it was a 10-year deal starting in 2017. So the only extension, from what I'm being told, is now every year gets multiple events. Instead, I guess some years had only one event. That was news to me. I thought originally all 10 years had at least 2 events. So now that's all the extension is. It's not for more years. It was 10 years to begin with. People thought it was 8, but the initial report was 10, which would have brought this to 2027. So that's 2027. All right. Shall we get on to the Monday Night Raw review, right? BC, timestamp, man. You need to I don't need to do shit. When it's a BC amplified video, you listen every fucking second because you will walk away smarter. I promise. It's what happens. I'll try to go through this as quick as possible, guys, so you're not here all day. I know I took a long time on all those stories, but there's a lot going on in the pro wrestling world, more specifically WWE right now, so I did want to make sure I got all of that news out of the way in this video. But I'll try to go through this as quick as possible. I mean, a lot went on last night, but not a lot went on last night. Does that make sense? I mean, it was a weird Raw. I honestly believe they tried last night. They had the NXT guys and gals show up. They had a mixed tag match. They had a 6-man tag match. They had a championship match with Cole and Rollins. They tried a lot of things. Like they tried to give you every little, a Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander match for fans that like that type of shit. They tried to give everybody everything. Whether it landed or not, we will never know, because the crowd was so dead in Long Island that we wanted to just fucking curl up and take a nap ourselves at home. I mean, that's how bad this crowd was. Again, I say, this crowd, watching that crowd, listening to that crowd, you would not know you were watching professional wrestling. I don't care how bad the show even is. You would have thought you were at somebody's dance recital or at the dentist. Bottom line, it was that fucking crucial to sit through. Top of the show, 3 SUVs pull up to the arena. Triple H gets out. He checks up on the other SUVs. You know NXT is in there, those other SUVs. So right off the gate, this is badass. NXT is there. They can show up and attack at any point in time during the next 3 hours. I'm in. I'm invested. This is awesome. That's the way I like the show to start. I don't want the show to always start with a wrestling match or a promo or always somebody coming to the ring. Start the show in the parking lot, in the locker room, at the local bar, at your Home Depot. I don't give a fuck. Start the show somewhere else and build a story that we're going to be captivated in throughout the night. You got 3 hours to go to wrestling and promos. Let's start with something fun backstage. The SUV, something simplistic like that, sets in our dome pieces intrigue, right? And it sets in the subconscious of our dome piece that something is going to happen later that could be pretty fucking epic. Or at least we're hoping. Then we go to Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. They hit the ring. Heyman vows that no matter what Brock has to do or who he has to go through, he's gonna find Mysterio. Backstage, he attacks the guy from catering who's just setting up catering. He bounces him all over the place like a basketball. And then we finally go to commercial. So in the first 10 minutes of Raw, I'm digging it. We got NXT showing up, and we don't know when they're actually going to show out and do the deed. And then you got Brock Lesnar, the animal that he is supposed to be, going wild on all of WWE again. He's pissed, and he's going to do anything to anyone to get to Rey Mysterio. So I'm loving the first 10 minutes. I'm thinking to myself, that's how you start a show and build intrigue. I left over on the Twitter machine. I said, that's 10 minutes, only 170 to go. In other words, can WWE really keep this up? I had my reservations. When we come back from commercial, Lesnar is still on the prowl. He destroys a limo door because somebody told him they thought Rey Mysterio got in the limo. So he destroys a limo door. He rips a dude out thinking he's Mysterio, but it's not. It's some scared shitless dude begging for his life at that point. Lesnar again kicks the limo, he spares the dude's life, and he walks off. So I'm loving the first 15 minutes and seeing this just ballistic animal in Brock Lesnar. That's the way Brock needs to be built. And again, NXT is in the arena, in the building. Anything can happen at any moment. That's what's in our minds right now. That's in our dome pieces. So it's a good first 15 minutes. Then we go into Charlotte and Natty versus Asuka and Kairi, the Kabuki Warriors, non-title contest. On paper, okay, decent match, right? But in no way, because I know what this is going toward. This is going to Charlotte and Natty collecting the championships eventually, just so Charlotte can be the first ever Grand Slam champion for the women. I believe she would be the first one to carry Divas, SmackDown, Raw, and Tag Team, right? Or did Bayley do that first? Because Bayley was NXT. No, Bayley wasn't Divas though, right? Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. That I'll have to do my research. I think Charlotte would be the first ever Grand. I think she was the first with the actual Divas. I don't think Bayley had it. And then the Raw, and then the SmackDown, and then the Tag Team. I think Charlotte, guys. Maybe there was a female to do it beforehand. Maybe two. I have to double check that. But I know they're going for Charlotte to be Grand Slam champion, possibly first ever. So in doing such, please don't beat Asuka and Kairi in a non-title match, please. Let them keep some fucking esteem and pride. But no, they actually had Charlotte and Natty defeat Asuka and Kairi last night. Literally, I'm not making this up. You heard me correctly. Charlotte and Natty defeated Asuka and Kairi in a non-title match. Only Vince would have the challengers to the tag titles determined and get their shot, earn their shot for the championships. Only Vince would have those challengers actually defeat the actual champions to get the shot. Normally, you would think they would beat a bunch of other tag teams and then earn their way to Kairi and Asuka. But no, WWE's way of thinking is, how do we build to a big championship match? We'll have the challengers get their opportunity by beating the actual champions. That's great, Vince. Do they not realize that just ruins any desire, intrigue, and anticipation to see the match? Because we've already seen it. We've already seen them. What else is there to see now? Nothing. We've seen it. Now the only thing that we're going to see is just Charlotte and Natty actually getting the championships. Okay. I don't want a big championship match at a pay-per-view to be something we've already seen for the challengers to get the shot. Just to see them again. Does that make sense? And this was actually a decent 20-minute match. 20 minutes. And they just had Asuka tap out like an average Jane. The only problem with that is Asuka is not an average Jane. She's not one of these Joe Schmoes. I've yet to see her down at the local bingo hall. Asuka is somebody. Treat her as such. I told you the only reason her and Kairi even have the tag titles is because AEW put their first ever women's championship on Rio 4 nights earlier. 4 nights later, Asuka and Kairi have an impromptu, not even called for, not even promoted. After Rio won that, that's when plans were put in motion that Asuka and Kairi were going to get the championships. And 4 nights later, that's what happened. This was a reactionary move to what AEW did. That's the only reason Kairi and Asuka even have championship. Vince sees zero value in Asuka and Kairi. That is the truth. So Natty, and I love Natty, I do. Tell me one time she has ever, and I mean ever, connected with the crowd ultimately. Didn't happen, ever. They go hot with her for a few months, and then they take her cold for a couple of years. Then she's hot for 6 months, and then they take her back for 3 years. Now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe Natty's top-tier talent again. We know she's damn good. We know she's a general for the ladies back there in the locker room, but fuck! Tapping out Asuka? Not needed. She's a champion. Is it so much to ask that you treat her as a champion, or at the very least, showcase her as a champion? Hey, Charlotte and Natty, how did you get your title opportunity? Well, we beat the champions already. Oh, that makes sense. It's this fucking company. Post-match, Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar hit the broadcast table, and Heyman gives Jerry Lawler an ultimatum. Tell them where Rey Mysterio is, or Brock is going to tear him into pieces, meaning Jerry Lawler. Dio Madden actually gets in the face of Brock Lesnar. I love this. This face-to-face with Dio and Brock. In fact, it wasn't face-to-face. Dio is much taller than Brock. And Brock just gives this grin, and I'm like, fuck yeah, man, let's do this. And it didn't take long before Madden to be planted on his ass. A knee to the gut, and then a F5 through the broadcast table, and Dio Madden was done and out. Before Brock Lesnar could do any damage on Jerry Lawler, Rey Mysterio ends up coming out and attacking him with what looked like a wiffle bat. I don't know what this toy bat was. But he was taking out Brock Lesnar's leg, and Man, I was loving the Brock Lesnar beast angle and him being a ballistic animal again. I hated to see Rey Mysterio just come out and make Brock look like the fucking tool that Vince McMahon has made him the last 3 to 4 years. I hated to see, or longer actually. But I want that ballistic animal, right? And at the pay-per-views occasionally, then you can fucking have him being taken out. But if Brock Lesnar is consistently being taken out, then he's losing value and losing stock. Or at least subconsciously to all of us. You were building him up perfectly the first fucking 40 minutes, and then all of a sudden, Rey Mysterio's just beating the fuck out of him again with a wiffle bat. I don't know, man. I love the Dio Madden Brock Lesnar angle, and then Rey Mysterio came out, and the whole thing kind of died down for me. And then afterwards, Rey Mysterio issues a challenge backstage, and this is pretty much official now. Rey Mysterio, Brock Lesnar, championship on the line at Survivor Series. I know there's other title matches between all the brands, but I'm okay with Rey and Brock. This is revisiting something from the early 2000s, and we get to see Rey Mysterio bounce around the ring and anywhere else in the arena like a lawn dart, because you know Brock is going to treat him like a lawn dart. That's pretty fun! And this is an obvious extension of the whole Velasquez and Brock Lesnar thing. You only got a few weeks to build up to Survivor Series. This is a perfect connection. I'm okay with this. Buddy Murphy defeats Cedric Alexander with Murphy's Law. This was a pretty fun match, actually, for the 7 minutes they were given. I don't see main event or larger than life in Buddy Murphy or Cedric. I just don't, but I know that a lot of people are behind Buddy Murphy, and that's cool. I'm not going to damper the mood. I'm not going to rain on your parade. If you like Buddy Murphy and you see main event or even larger than life status in him, that's cool, man. I'm not going to, again, damper on that. I don't personally, I think there is a place for him in the company, but I don't see Buddy Murphy's mic skills as anything special. I think he's a damn good wrestler, but there's 1,000,001 damn good wrestlers in the world. There's 100 on that fucking roster, actually. And I'm not seeing a persona in Buddy Murphy that screams, wow, this is the guy I want to fucking, this is my larger-than-life superstar for the next 10 years. I'm not seeing it personally. I see a run-of-the-mill guy, And he held his own against Roman Reigns, and I'm sure he can hold his own against anybody in that roster, and that's awesome to see. But he has to prove a lot more than just being a good wrestler and decent on the mic to make me believe he's larger than life and he should be in main events of WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Royal Rumble. I mean, some people, when Buddy Murphy first started on the main roster, they were praising him like the next biggest thing in the wrestling business. But no, the truth is he's not. And again, I'm not raining on your parade, but he's not. He's pretty fucking run-of-the-mill and he falls in line with other talent. The Ricochets, even fucking Ali. Seth Rollins, whether you like him or not. I mean, you're not telling me Buddy Murphy is larger than life than any of those guys. And that's what I mean. So I don't jump on these fanboy bandwagons when any new flavor of the month, if you will, as Rollins would call it, or even Hulk Hogan. I don't jump on these right away. I want to see what they do on the main roster and how they evolve their character, because that's important. Because Vince can just book you like shit and you never really get a chance. But if you're not evolving your character at all either and showcasing why you should have a chance, then you're not going to get people like me to fall in line with you. I need to see Buddy Murphy really take it to the next fucking level. Nobody told Steve Austin when he was the ringmaster how to do that, right? The ringmaster was not getting a lot of fucking chances. But once he started that Stone Cold character in play, and trust me, that character started before King of the Ring, guys. People like to say, oh, he got the King of the Ring, so that was his opportunity. No, he took that opportunity and he ran with it. The character started developing before that. And that's what I mean. Even when you're not getting chances. Sometimes, even when you're not on fucking TV, there's ways to evolve your character and showcase yourself and bring attention to yourself and make people demand that people pay you attention. Look at Zack Ryder. He was getting nothing when he had that internet championship. Remember that? And he was just online, and he created a presence for himself that made even Vince McMahon have to put him on TV, and eventually even won some championships. If the Ringmaster can do it, if Zack Ryder can do it, then I'm going to look to Buddy Murphy to do the same. I'm sorry to give a whole spiel on that, but that's my honest truth about Buddy. There's definitely something in Buddy Murphy. He's definitely a great talent. He's decent on the mic. You're going to have to be a lot more than that if you want me to fall in line with, wow, he should get the moon, the stars, and everything aligned with it in the planet. No, I'm not going to say that. But I wish him nothing but the best. And I guess my point is, all we're going to see is Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander if this is just what they're bringing to the table. They can fly around the ring, but if that's all they have to offer, then Vince McMahon is only going to put them in the ring together. It's basically just an extension of 205 Live. Every week we're going to see Bud Murphy and Cedric. Hour 2 kicks off with Seth Rollins hitting the ring, delivering a promo about how this whole last year has been basically for nothing. He's on Raw with Brock Lesnar, and once again, Brock has the title and he's chasing. So he's right back from square one, and I was thinking about that. It is so true. He says, and I quote, "I don't know what's next for Seth Rollins." Triple H comes to the ring and tries recruiting Rollins for NXT. Triple H says, and I quote, "You're either with me or you're against me. Or against us." And Undisputed Era come through the crowd and hit the ring apron. And you could hear them saying, use your head, think about it, make the right decision. The OC then hits the ring but is attacked by several other NXT talents. The Raw roster then hits the ringside and NXT superstars retreat. Rollins was untouched throughout, so NXT made sure that they didn't touch Rollins, let him make his decision. Listen, I love the fact that NXT attacked. I love the fact that NXT showed up and showed out. I just wish this was done better. This was the moment you had. I'm cool with the Undisputed Era on the ring apron if something more happened with them and Rollins and H. But then when you just had the OC come out and then the Raw locker room, now NXT just looks like little leaguers at that point. They just do. And I'm not just talking visually. Although visually, they look like fucking little leaguers last night. They just did. I mean, when Undisputed Era was up on that ring apron, guys, I was like, what the fuck? I don't know, man. It was like looking at my basketball team picture when I was 12 years old, you know, just out of Pee-wee. I mean, I'm not trying to knock anybody, but that's what it looked like. I mean, these are some small fucking dudes when you get them all together. Rollins, who's not an over-the-top big dude, trumps them. I'm not so sure Rollins couldn't take out Undisputed Era. I mean, it's sad to say, man, because, you know, I love Undisputed Era, and I love NXT and what they're doing. But when you put them in that scenario, it's easy to see that they're the little fish in a big motherfucking pond. And you got the OC. I mean, Gallows is going to trump everybody. So, I mean, obviously, he was like fucking Giant Gonzalez to Hornswoggle when he was up with Undisputed Era. I just didn't like that, man. And then the Raw locker room comes down and NXT's running away. Everything they did last night with NXT in this, it made him look cheesy. It made them look like chumps. It made them look like fucking wusses, to be honest. So on the one hand, I'm glad that we had them infused. I wish they were infused in a much better way. It seems on NXT, what they did on SmackDown, that was just flawless. Every single segment. It was lightning in a bottle, magic of the night. It was just magic. Every segment, it was just flawless. And then on Raw, it's like they just did all the wrong things, man. I didn't like that at all. And so NXT's running away. Okay. Up next, Zelina and Andrade took on Sin Cara and Catalina. Zelina and Andrade versus Sin Cara and Catalina. Listen, Zelina is so fine and Carolina is so thick. I was so into that. Just give me Zelina and Carolina and I'm good, man. Because I'm just like, oh, I love these women. I really do, you know, and then that's That's just the man in me speaking, I understand. But they're just, wow, that was pretty fucking sexy. And okay, we'll get back to the boys now. Okay, Andrade, super good in the ring. Sin Cara's even good in the ring. So them two together, okay, they'll mesh well. So all in all, guys, I didn't mind this. For me, it was sort of fun to watch. Again, mostly because of Zelina and Carolina. But fuck it. Whatever. I had 5 minutes for it. Zelina actually pins Carolina. And that's a huge victory for Zelina. You saw that in her face. She was like, what? So that's pretty big. Listen. I don't know. I know the wrestling community is probably shitting on that match. But as a dude who finds great beauty in Zelina and finds great beauty in the thickness of a woman, I love that. Rusev versus Drew McIntyre is up next. Pretty dull match for me personally, I gotta say, but that could be because I just didn't give a shit about it. How's that for honesty? It was dull because I just didn't care about Rusev and Drew McIntyre. These individuals have been booked so poorly and so 50-50 booked into obscurity that Vince somehow found a way for us not even to care about them. And it's not to say like they were faces, right? It's not to say like it's a Rollins situation or a Bray Wyatt situation. Hey man, if you're a fan, you stick with them, like I always say. Listen, they were heels for the longest time, so nobody was with them per se. We just wanted to see good things happen to them. So when you're not even a fan of them up front, and you're 50-50 booking them into obscurity, then yeah, after time, it's just going to get pretty fucking dull. And for me personally, that's what happened. Now that Rusev is kind of a face, maybe he'll get that fan base back behind him, and people will catapult him back to the moon, and Vince will have no choice but to give him the attention he deserves. Maybe that'll happen now. But as of right now, in this type of storyline with the whole Lana thing and Bob Lashley, it's not a home run for WWE. Honestly, at this point, I was receiving word from multiple people regarding the mandatory meeting that was held earlier in the day. So that's another reason why I was kind of distracted from Rusev and Drew McIntyre. I was getting word by many people at that point that there was a meeting held earlier in the day. So I was trying to do some research during this match. At some point, Bobby Lashley attacks Rusev. Rusev gains the upper hand, but is RKO'd out of nowhere. That's right, Randy Orton once again, out of nowhere with an RKO. It's all meaningless in the end, though, because Ricochet comes out to make a save, and even the odds. Okay, this was a clusterfuck that'll mostly just lead to a tag team match between all four next week. Nobody wanted to see this match last night. Nobody's going to want to see that tag match next week. Or at least, aside from the 13 shills that'll fucking gladly say, please, sir, can I have some more? You know what I mean? Then, and only then, will WWE have an audience. Once you get away from those 13 individuals, the majority of us do not want to see this type of bullshit that is not leading to anything interesting. It's just the truth, man. Hour number 3. And by this point, guys, Adam Cole and Seth Rollins was made official for later in the night for the NXT Championship. Because Rollins told Triple H, you want me to be a part of NXT? Well, I want something from you. You talk about Daniel Bryan and how they tore it down on Friday. Well, I want Adam Cole for the NXT Championship tonight. So Triple H gave him that match, and that was the main event later on. Hour 3 really kicked off with Becky Lynch in a backstage sit-down interview with Charlie Caruso. It didn't take long for Shayna Baszler to usher Charlie away and take Charlie Caruso's seat and stare face-to-face with Becky Lynch. Shayna and Becky have an awesome, badass introduction to one another. The past of NXT meeting the present of NXT. And the future means Becky and Shayna in that ring. You add in Bayley and I'm all in. I would like to see Shayna versus Becky one-on-one, to be honest with you. Just like at WrestleMania, I wanted to see Becky and Ronda one-on-one. Let's settle it once and for all. They had to throw in Charlotte Flair. It kind of diluted it. Bayley thrown in does dilute this a little bit, but it's still badass. The new character of Bayley with Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler, who's at the top of her fucking game. At this point, nobody can beat Shayna Baszler. She's on a winning streak with that championship to the likes we haven't seen in the longest time in this industry. And they had an awesome face-to-face, guys. I mean, there was just a sincerity and a severity and everything that they spoke. And they were just sizing one another up. And you got to give credit to Becky. You can't just give credit to Shayna here. Becky always talks about how she's the man and she's badass. She showed it in her expressions last night, man. Even when Shayna would go like an inch closer, Becky went 3 inches closer. No back down in that. I loved it. I really did. And that's what I try to tell you guys. You don't always have to be in that fucking ring to further something. You could do something awesome simplistically by just sitting 2 people down and having a face-to-face. If you do it correctly and there's enough passion, there's enough sincerity and expression, and you have 2 people that know what the fuck they're doing and can deliver, the amplified man's invested. Love that shit. 6-man tag is up next. OC versus the Street Profits and Humberto. Street Profits and Humberto do a 3-minute little fucking comedy shtick on the staging area. Nobody in Long Island. That's the one thing I don't blame Long Island for. Nobody made a peep. It was so quiet that if there was a cricket in that arena, you fucking heard it. If there was a baby in that arena, you heard him crying. Because let me tell you right now, nobody at all in that arena gave a flying fuck about what the Street Profits were saying. And this led into a match that Long Island cared just as much less about. I just couldn't bring myself to caring about this. I tried and I tried. But anyway, regardless, AJ Styles defeated Humberto with his feet on the rope. That's right, both feet on the rope. And utilized those ropes like only AJ Styles can do. Crowd was silent to the core during this match, and afterwards, it was no different. When OC got the victory, you looked to the crowd and you were hoping that they were just asleep and they weren't dead, because that's how quiet they were. Up next, the Viking Experience Warrior Adventure Time Machine. They took on the East Hampton Polo Boys, and I really want to thank the East Hampton Polo Boys. They were filling in last night for Danny Dipshit Dugenheimer and Fuckwad Fred. They were injured a couple of nights ago, when they took on Peacock Paulie and Benny Ballsack Bandito. Special guest referee was my local pizza delivery guy, Luigi Lugnuts. It was a huge matchup. Danny Dipshit Dugenheimer and Fuckwad Fred were both injured. Thus, the East Hampton Polo Boys were called in last second. I want to thank them big time. And that really sucks for Danny Dipshit Dugenheimer and Fuckwad Fred, because that was going to be their debut in WWE. They finally got the chance. But their injuries were just too much. Man, it's just a sad scenario. But congrats to the East Hampton Polo Boys. You know, at least they got their chance, and I want to thank them again for filling in. They were demolished in 90 seconds. Post-match, they, meaning the Viking Experience Warrior Adventure Time Machine, they tell Gallows and Anderson that they have won a battle, but nothing can stop the raid. The battle they're, of course, talking about is what happened at Crown Jewel. Best tag team in the world. Yeah, that was a fucking joke, obviously. NXT Championship match main event is next. Rollins versus Adam Cole, baby! That sucked, by the way, when they announced that last night and everyone was supposed to do the baby. 26 people actually shouted that back. Man, what was that crowd on? You can't just blame a dead show on that, guys. That was... the show had its ups. And you at least want to show Vinnie Mac and the people in the back that, you do support these NXT stars, and that is who you want to see. Show them that you care about Adam Cole, man. 26 people isn't going to fucking do it. Vince is hearing that shit, and he's like, yep, just what I thought. Nationally, they're just bums. We'll keep using them on Wednesday nights to take away from AEW's audience. Come on, man. It was an alright match for the 10 minutes they were given. They legit were only given 10 minutes. This was nothing like Daniel Bryan and Rollins. But it was an alright match. I don't know if I've ever used that term, alright match, to describe a match, but that's what it was. At that point, I finally figured out why I was lacking some energy throughout the night, and besides the fact that it wasn't the best of shows, it definitely wasn't the most horrible of shows, it was the crowd just lifeless. It really had a negative effect on what was actually some good points of the show. The finish saw Undisputed Era take out Rollins, and from there it was just a chaotic brawl. everybody started hitting the ring, man. You had NXT, you had WWE's Raw roster. I couldn't even keep track of who was who and what was what. I just know that NXT was getting beat up just as bad as the Raw guys. I really wanted to see NXT pick their moments last night and look really strong, not just physically, but using their smarts, like they did Friday. Instead, I saw a lot of running away and getting their asses kicked last night. That is not how you want to utilize NXT. This is only the second time that they tried to overtake a show. And they're already running away and getting beat up throughout the night. Shayna Baszler is the only one that looked badass. Matt Riddle, I love him, but God bless him, he's out there rolling in flip-flops. Legit, no, this is not a bullshitter, man. You can go back and review the tape. Matt Riddle's out there in flip-flops going to war. Come on, man. And then you have the stupid over-the-top rope diving cannonball where everybody gets taken out, right? Ricochet jumps over the top rope, and somehow 20 dudes are going to be knocked out from it. Keith Lee, I understand, he's a little bit bigger. He tried to do it too, and 20 dudes got knocked out. But come on, bro. I'm told that afterwards, when Raw went off the air, Ricochet did it again. Flew over the top rope and took out 20 dudes again. So 3 times in a 5-minute span, 20 dudes got knocked out from one dude jumping over a rope. I'm getting sick and tired of those lame over-the-top rope dives. We see it in every little cruiserweight match. We see it in all these fucking spot fest scenarios. I don't need to see all the NXT guys getting taken out by one flying Ricochet or one flying fucking shooting star or one fucking falling moon or a fucking hornswoggle being flung in the air. I don't want to see 20 dudes being taken out from it. That's literally how it went off the air. It left a bad taste in my mouth, man. I was like, that's what you had for NXT? That's it? One spot with Rollins where the Raw locker room chased them away and they ran away like bitches, and then a second spot where Raw's beating the fuck out of them? Man, I was hoping for more. But that was Monday Night Raw, baby. As I promised you guys, this was not going to be anywhere near what we saw on Friday. I was just hoping it was going to be a lot better than what we got last night. There was some good points, and I really feel, this is kind of sad actually, I really feel like they tried to give everybody a little bit of everything. The mixed tag match, a 6-man tag match, a championship main event match, the Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler deal. Brock Lesnar going ballistic. And, revisiting that animal side of him. The Rey Mysterio attack. You had Dio Madden get involved from the broadcast team. And he gets planted through the broadcast table. So you had all of this shit that should, on paper, please everybody. It just wasn't executed all properly. And the NXT shit was just bad, let's be honest. You should have had much better for them. So I really do feel that they tried, and that makes this even sadder. Or more pathetic, however which way you look at it. But that was Monday Night Raw, guys. I don't know. This was like a weird smorgasbord. The one thing I will take from this is Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler. And at least that adds a little bit of intrigue. You throw Bayley in there. You know Sasha Banks is going to be by Bayley's side. What that's telling me, guys, is you have 3 horsewomen in there with one of the original horsewomen from the UFC, Shayna Baszler. 3 in 1, right? Because Sasha Banks is going to be in the corner of Bayley. They're in there with Becky. 3 in 1. Now, Shayna's probably going to have her NXT gals with her from the horsewomen. Does Ronda Rousey show up? Is Charlotte Flair going to somehow be inserted? And if that's the case, then if you see Charlotte Flair come Survivor Series, Ronda Rousey is in the building. I assure you. So that'll be something interesting to look forward to as well. Anyway, guys, that was Raw. It was a smorgasbord. I think all of our minds are still trying to grasp what happened over there in fucking Saudi Arabia. So we're starting to come down from that story right now and kind of digest all of that. So we're going to regroup. And then tomorrow night we'll go to AEW and NXT once again head to head. I will probably have an impromptu video tomorrow, or at least I would like to, but definitely Thursday morning, the NXT AEW Duo Review, all under one video. That way we can really put these two beasts together and see what they did. So that'll be Thursday morning. Hopefully you guys kick the rest of Tuesday's ass. And until next time, the Amplified Man, yow! Check you later.